Donald Trump promised to make America richer. He vowed to slash taxes, boost business, and put money back in the pockets of hardworking Americans. One of his boldest moves, taking on the IRS. The Internal Revenue Service, long seen as a bureaucratic behemoth, became a prime target for Trump's cost-cutting crusade. He pledged to shrink the agency, reduce its power, and ease the burden on taxpayers. Trump's supporters cheered. They saw the IRS as a symbol of government overreach, a drain on the economy, and a nuisance for ordinary citizens. They believed that smaller government meant more freedom, more prosperity, and a stronger America. Trump tapped into this sentiment, painting a vision of a leaner, meaner, and ultimately richer nation. But not everyone shared this optimistic outlook. Critics, including former President Barack Obama, voiced deep concerns about the potential consequences of Trump's IRS cuts. They argued that weakening the IRS would lead to less tax revenue, which could balloon the deficit and harm vital government programs. They worried about the impact on essential services, from infrastructure to education to national security. Trump's promise to shrink the IRS quickly became a reality. On April 4, 2025, the agency began implementing a massive 25% reduction in its workforce. This meant saying goodbye to approximately 20,000 employees, a move that sent shockwaves through the organization and beyond. The cuts targeted various departments and job categories, from auditors and tax examiners to customer service representatives and support staff. The Trump administration didn't stop there. They specifically targeted IRS collection agencies, the very divisions responsible for recouping unpaid taxes. These agencies, often viewed as the enforcement arm of the IRS, faced significant downsizing and restructuring. The message was clear. Trump's administration was serious about reducing the IRS's reach and power. This dramatic reduction in workforce raised immediate concerns about the agency's ability to function effectively. Critics argued that the cuts would cripple the IRS, leaving it ill-equipped to handle its core responsibilities, such as processing tax returns, conducting audits, and pursuing tax evaders. They predicted longer wait times, reduced enforcement, and a potential surge in tax fraud. The Trump administration defended the IRS cuts as a necessary step towards a more efficient and effective government. They argued that the agency had become bloated and bureaucratic, weighed down by unnecessary layers of management and outdated processes. They claimed that technology could streamline operations, allowing the IRS to do more with less. Reducing government spending was another key rationale behind the cuts. Trump and his supporters argued that shrinking the size and scope of the federal government was essential to unleashing economic growth. They believed that lower taxes and less regulation would create jobs, boost investment, and stimulate the economy. The IRS, with its large budget and perceived heavy-handedness, became a symbol of wasteful government spending in their eyes. The administration also claimed that the cuts would ultimately benefit taxpayers. They argued that a leaner, more efficient IRS would lead to lower compliance costs for businesses and individuals. Furthermore, they promised that the cuts would contribute to lower inflation, as the government would be taking less money out of the economy. The IRS cuts have undeniably ignited a fierce debate about the role of government, the burden of taxation, and the path to economic prosperity. Trump's supporters remain steadfast in their belief that smaller government and lower taxes are the keys to unlocking American potential. They argue that the private sector, not the government, is the true engine of economic growth. However, critics of the cuts are equally adamant in their opposition. They warn that weakening the IRS will have dire consequences for the nation's fiscal health, potentially leading to higher deficits, reduced government services, and increased inequality. They argue that a robust IRS is essential for ensuring fairness in the tax system and preventing tax evasion, which disproportionately benefits the wealthy. The true impact of Trump's IRS cuts remains to be seen. Will they usher in an era of unprecedented economic growth and prosperity, as his supporters predict, or will they weaken the government's ability to function effectively, leading to a cascade of unintended consequences? Only time will tell. However, one thing is certain. The debate over the size, scope, and role of the IRS will continue to rage on, reflecting the deep divisions in American society over the role of government and the distribution of wealth.